Hey, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com, back at it again with another video. Wednesday, December 11th. Now, yesterday, I talked about all the juniors leaving. Guys got a little nervous, and I get it. So today, I'm going to talk about what if all these juniors came back and what the team would look like for the 2020 season. Hit the like and subscribe button. I appreciate you guys being here. Let's start out with the quarterback position. Can you imagine Tua Tagovailoa pulling the trigger and deciding that he's coming back to Alabama for the 2020 season? Wow, what would that do to the quarterback room, right? You got Tua Tagovailoa up on top. You got Mac Jones, who's going to be now a redshirt junior. You got Talia Tagovailoa, redshirt freshman. And it'll be interesting to see if Talia gets playing time during the bowl game because he's only played in less than 5 games. So he still can hold that redshirt card. Be a curious move on the chessboard. I think he's going to redshirt probably. You got Paul Tyson, who's definitely going to redshirt freshman. And then you got incoming freshman Bryce Young. Now, a lot of people have asked if Tua Tagovailoa comes back for the 2020 season, does that mean Bryce Young exits and does not commit during December 18th, which is just coming up on National Signing Day? According to Andrew Bone, Bryce Young is solid with his commitment to the Alabama Crimson Tide, which is great news. So I think it's a packed quarterback room. I think as you moved into springtime, and if the scenario was to play out where Tua Tagovailoa does stay, you're going to be watching these items. Number one, how does Tua look during the springtime? What type of mobility does he have? Is he even going to participate in the spring? I would highly doubt it. So it looks like the quarterback race would be Mac Jones, Talia, Bryce Young, Paul Tyson during the springtime. And then you're going to find out over the summertime how much progression Tua Tagovailoa has made before the start of the 2020 season, Alabama taking on USC. So a lot going on right there, I know. But best case scenario is Tua Tagovailoa comes back for the 2020 season, which I don't think any Alabama Crimson Tide fan would be upset about, right? I mean, you're talking about one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in all college football, who certainly could be a top 10 draft pick in the 2020 NFL draft. We talked about that yesterday. But if he comes back, can you imagine what that would mean for this team going forward? Talk about unfinished business, right? All right, let's talk about the running backs. Now, Najee Harris, he's a guy who's slated to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. We talked about yesterday. I kind of disagree with that. I think he'd be higher just because of the way he played late in the season. But this would be the running back room if Najee Harris returns. He'd be a senior along with B-Rob. Brian Robinson, I think he has some unfinished business, right? He's not going anywhere anyways. He's coming back. Jerome Ford, Killen Robinson, those guys would be sophomores. And then you have Trey Sanders, who would be a redshirt freshman. Now, Trey Sanders, he was a 5-star who came in, injured his foot, sat out the entire season. I know there's been some talks that he's going to be back by bowl season. I'm not buying it. This is what you're looking like in the running back room. Now, you got Najee, who's your big, powerful running back. Same with Brian Robinson. And then you have Jerome Ford, Killen Robinson. Now, those guys have shown that they are elusive, especially Killen Robinson. I mean, that guy looks like he's shot out of a cannon every single time. I would like to see him get more touches. And then we're all curious to see what type of player Trey Sanders is, right? I mean, there's so much hype on a player like this coming in, and then to have him be injured was really upsetting to a lot of fans, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a guy who I feel is an all-purpose type back, can be a power back, can show that he's elusive, aware enough to hit holes, bounce outside. So, I mean, talk about that running back room. I mean, that's without a doubt the most talented running back room in all of college football. Moving forward, look at the tight ends. Miller Forrestall, he'd be a redshirt senior. He's coming back. He's very good. I mean, I know towards the end of the season, he got a voice box injury, which knocked him out in a couple games. And sometimes you look at it and you look at Alabama's offense and you're like, well, tight end doesn't really matter. What it does, because Miller Forrestall is a guy who brings a lot of experience. He's a guy that can get to that second level, put blocks on the linebacker. You got Major Tennyson right behind him. He's got a lot of experience. We haven't seen a lot of him. And then how about this guy, Cameron Latou, right? I mean, I'd be curious to see the play on Cameron Latou, and if Cameron Latou switches back to the defensive side of the ball, or if he's at tight end for the duration of this next season, or the duration of his career. I think depending on, who leaves, Cameron Latou could be a guy that maybe moves back to the defensive side, just because, as you can see right here, the tight end room, I mean, there's a lot of guys you can call on. And how about this young man, Jahlil Billingsley? I think we saw great splashes of him. There was a particular play where he ran for, 35, 40 yards this season off a pass, and you're like, wow, I mean, that's the tight end of the future. I think Jahlil Billingsley could be the starter next season. Him and Miller Forstall. That would probably be my 1-2 depth chart for the 2020 season. I think Jahlil Billingsley is also a guy you can split out wide. He causes mismatches because of his size. And I think he's certainly a guy that deserves the football many times. He's not a blocking tight end. This is a receiving tight end. He's got to get the football to Jahlil Billingsley. As we move on, I mean, look at this room. The receiving room would be the most dynamic receiving room ever in college football. I don't think it's going to be like this. As I explained when we talked about the juniors leaving for the draft, I think Jerry Jeudy pretty much gone. But just imagine for a second that these guys come back. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, John Mechie. I mean, those are just the 5 that I listed. I mean, we're not even talking about Terrell Shavers, Xavier Williams, Slade Bolden. I mean, those guys are also on the depth chart. Overall, I mean, this group currently is the best in college football. If they all return next season, it'd be lights out, especially paired up with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, right? Jerry Jeudy on the outside, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith. I mean, all of those guys are capable of being picked in rounds 1 or 2 in this coming 2020 draft. Them returning for their senior season with the experience, another year under Scott Cochran. How fast are these guys going to be? 4.2, 4.3? And then what about Jalen Waddle? Can you imagine him, his junior year? You're talking about one of the most dangerous college football players already as a sophomore, and then him returning next year. Wow. I just think going forward, Jalen Waddle needs a football 15 times a game. Is that possible? Can you get Jalen Waddle the ball that much? All right, we're moving on. Offensive line. Now, I didn't list the entire offensive line, but in this scenario, you're returning Alex Leatherwood, Jedrick Wills at the bookends. Now, those guys in my previous video exiting, right, to the NFL draft. But look at this setup. Look at the depth. And you have to add into the fact that Evan Neal started every game so far. So, I mean, you're talking about a tremendous amount of experience to the offensive line. Leatherwood, Wills on the outside. Evan Neal, 6'7", 360. I mean, how much bigger is he going to get, right? Landon Dickerson, I think we're all impressed with what he brought to the table. And Deonte Brown is now a redshirt senior. I think Deonte Brown really exceeded my expectations this year. He was a guy that we knew he was going to be pretty good, but I think in run situations, he was phenomenal. That offensive line, A+ across the board. It would be monumental if Leatherwood or Wills, if either one came back. If they both came back, lights out for college football, right? And you're talking about the overall offense as we've looked at, just being fantastic from every single position. And I think a lot of it has to do with the experience. Just because in the past, these guys leaving early for the NFL, it creates holes. You have to start a couple freshman guys who are less experienced. And look what a senior laden Alabama offense would do along with Steve Sarkisian. Wow. I mean, you're talking about 50 points per game, maybe more. And as we transition to the defensive side, look what's going to happen. You got Raekwon Davis leaving. But besides that, you got a lot of young guns stepping up on the defensive line. And potentially this could be a vulnerability next season just because of the youth. But then again, all these guys saw a good amount of experience during the 2019 season. I think everyone's ready to see what Christian Barmore can do with 20 to 30, 40 reps per game. DJ Dell proved he's capable to hold the rope during his freshman year. Byron Young, Justin Ebogbe, those are guys who got plenty of playing time. And there's other guys as well that will rise up, right? Ismail Sopsher is another guy that we're all tracking, who was a freshman this past year. And Fedarian Mathis is another guy that could get onto the field. So this season in 2019, you had a lot of these freshmen stepping up. And it caused vulnerabilities at time. And we'll talk about that next when we talk about the linebackers. But I think overall in the next season, these guys have a lot more experience. You just have to watch out for that sophomoric mentality, making those second year errors, that sophomore slump, so to speak. All right, looking at the linebackers. Look at this group. Terrell Lewis, Dylan Moses. Now, those are two guys that we're kind of watching right now to see if they return. If they do return, Terrell Lewis, I already told you I feel like he's going. I don't know about Dylan Moses. Dylan Moses, Shane Lee, Christian Harris, Chris Allen. I didn't even list Joshua McMillan to this list. Joshua McMillan, senior this season, got hurt earlier in the season. Looks like he's going to file for a medical red shirt, so he's back. So this year, Pete Golding had zero experience with the inside linebackers. He had to start Shane Lee, had to start Christian Harris, right? Two young gun freshmen. Can you imagine Pete Golding working with these linebackers? And really for Pete Golding next season, that would be his year to prove himself as a defensive coordinator, because he'd have so much experience around him, so much talent around him. It'd be really, you'd have to take the entire blame if the defense allowed yards, if they allowed points. That would be all on him. This season, it's confusing because there's so much youth. And Saban has said that, so many injuries, so much youth playing on the defensive side of the ball, but not next year. So next year would be like Pete Golding's time to say, look, this is my defense, and these are my guys with the experience. This is the type of defense that you can expect from Alabama going forward. Look at the secondary. Jalen Armour-Davis, Josh Jobe at the corners. That could be interesting because neither one of those guys started this coming year. I moved Patrick Surtain to the star position. Now, of course, Surtain could move back to that corner position, just being that he has the experience. But I think Jalen Armour-Davis and Josh Jobe at that corner position could be something that theoretically happens in 2020. Safeties, Xavier McKinney would be returning. He's a guy that I'm not sure about. And then Jordan Battle would now be a sophomore. A lot of guys with a lot of experience back there. I like that setup. I think the vulnerabilities obviously would be with the corners, Jalen Armour-Davis and Josh Jobe, but overall, very good setup, especially with McKinney. If he returns because he's already has that seniority, already has that experience, wow. I mean, that would be a great defense overall. Looking at the special teams, Ty Perrine, be your punter. He's a sophomore. I think we saw good things from him. Of course, he'd have to battle with Skylar DeLong. Will Reichard, he was injured this season, so he's going to redshirt. He'll be probably file for that medical redshirt. So we'll keep you posted on that on BamaInsider.com. Long snapper, Thomas Fletcher. He was one of the special teams players of the year. Holder, is it going to be Tua Tagovailoa if he comes back? Probably so. Him or Mac Jones? Probably doesn't matter. And then punt returner, kick returner, Jalen Waddle. Of course, one of the most dangerous special teams player in all of college football. Look at that team overall. Let me know what you think in the comment box. I'm curious to get your thoughts. If all these guys come back for 2020, you're talking about one of the greatest teams, I think, at least on paper, under Nick Saban, just because of the experience, all that talent on offense. Another year for Pete Golding to prove himself on defense with all those names returning. Sound off in the comment box. I want to know what you would think of this team should all these guys come back. You've heard about it. You've seen the rumors online that there was a players only meeting, that a lot of these players have unfinished business. I want to see what happens in these next couple weeks to see if it's true. See if these guys come back to put Alabama back on top of the college football mountain. Hey, hit me up, Kyle at BamaInsider.com. That's my email. Now is a great time to sign up for BamaInsider.com. You can get $75 to Nike.com when you sign up to BamaInsider.com today. And you can also get 25% off your subscription. No better time. Signing day, December 18th. Got you covered at BamaInsider.com. Thanks for following us. We'll catch up soon on BamaInsider.com.